Elizabeth Ciders, the mother of 16 children accused of hiding her children and causing them serious harm, wants out of jail. But the prosecutor says Elizabeth should stay put. I'll tell you all of the reasons why. I'm Anjanette Levy, and this is Crime Fix. Elizabeth Ciders has been in jail since June 30th, going on 2 months now, and she wants out. Who wouldn't? Elizabeth's attorney has asked the judge to modify her bail, but the prosecutor has now responded in writing, and William Archer is essentially saying, "Not so fast, Judge. Keep her in." And his reasons for that are interesting, to say the very least. I'm going to go through all of this for you. Elizabeth's husband, Gary Ciders Jr., and her mother-in-law, Christina Ciders, are still in jail too. Christina Ciders' lawyer has also asked that she be released on bail. Gary Ciders Sr. is out of jail on a signature bond. The 73-year-old grandfather was released from jail because he has a serious medical condition. And since he was in jail, the county would have been responsible for his medical bills. And the prosecutor said those medical bills could have caused the county to go bankrupt. That's how poor Vinton County is. One inmate's medical bills could have sent the county into a financial tailspin. But right now, the county is responsible for the care.
The defendant has new serious felony charges that will be considered by the grand jury. That sentence is not a teaser. It is the last line of a memorandum filed by the Vinton County prosecutor in the case of Elizabeth Ciders, the mother at the center of what Ohio officials now call a house of horrors. Now hold one image in your mind. A house on OMR Street where the front door was not an entrance. It was a seal. 16 children lived behind that seal, and the outside world did not know they existed. That image, a house that swallowed its own children, is not a metaphor for a horror movie. It is the legal reality of this case. Before we go deeper into what the documents actually show, make sure you're subscribed to Law and Crime Insiders, because we don't just cover the story, we follow the evidence.
Responsible for the care of Elizabeth Ciders, the mother of the 16 children, her husband Gary Jr., and her mother-in-law, Christina Ciders. In the booking video of Elizabeth from June 30th, she was noticeably the only Ciders family member who wasn't handcuffed. Just looking at her, her body language appeared to be much different from her husband's and her in-laws. She cowered, her shoulders were rounded, and she was practically hunched over. She seemed scared. This, coupled with how Elizabeth appeared in court and in her booking photo, and the fact that she had 18 children over about 18 years, made people wonder and question whether Elizabeth was the victim of something nefarious. When asked by a local TV station whether Elizabeth Ciders was a victim, her lawyer, Tommy Stolley, said Elizabeth didn't consider herself a victim, but he was still looking into that possibility. Here's what Prosecutor William Archer said when asked whether Elizabeth was a victim at a press conference back on July 8th.
According to her attorney, she's not a victim. So we'll let him decide how he wants to address his representation of her.
So it doesn't appear at this point that William Archer's opinion has changed, because he has formally objected to any modification of Elizabeth's bond as it stands right now. Archer wrote in a memorandum opposing the request for bail modification, "This court should deny the bond modification for several reasons. First, the defendant is facing multiple serious pending charges, multiple F2s involving serious physical harm to her children, and thus is a flight risk and a potential risk to the victims in this case. Second, the defendant has filed a competency motion. Consequently, she is at personal risk until her competency is known. Third, the defendant has new serious felony charges that will be considered by the grand jury." Did you catch that last part? William Archer wrote that Elizabeth Ciders has
has been in jail since June 30th. Her husband Gary Ciders Jr. and her mother-in-law Christina Ciders are still there. Her attorney asked the judge to modify her bail. The prosecutor, William Archer, answered in writing. And his answer is not a rejection, it is a legal wall. The state says Elizabeth faces multiple second-degree felonies involving serious physical harm to her children. In plain English, the harm alleged is not neglect by poverty, it is harm by commission. Each count carries up to 8 years, 16 counts. Do the math, that is not a sentence. It is a life sentence with extra steps. The memorandum does not flinch. It calls her a flight risk. It calls her a potential risk to the victims. Then it adds something new, something the public had not heard before.
Has new serious felony charges that will be considered by the grand jury. That sounds like those charges are in addition to the 16 child endangering charges she already faces. Judge Rogers has already ordered a competency evaluation for Elizabeth Ciders at the request of her lawyer. The evaluation will also include an evaluation to determine whether Elizabeth Ciders has a mental illness that would make her not guilty by reason of insanity. Tommy Stawley had said previously that Elizabeth Ciders wants to be released from jail so she can be reunited with her children, but that seems highly unlikely to happen anytime soon. Vinton County is actually seeking permanent custody of the children. Let me tell you, running a business is really tough, but why make it harder doing things manually or relying on dozens of apps that don't talk to each other? That's where our sponsor, Odoo, comes in. Odoo is an all-in-one business management platform with a full suite of integrated apps that seamlessly connect all of your operations from sales and accounting to manufacturing and even shipping. Odoo can automatically generate professional, sleek-looking sales orders, invoices, and vendor bills. And it can automatically assign sales teams, send email updates through each sales stage, and even uses AI to pull reports that help with your decision.
First, the context. When Elizabeth was booked, she was the only adult in that family not placed in handcuffs. In the booking video, her shoulders were rounded, she cowered. She looked less like an accused mastermind and more like a woman who had spent years inside the same locked rooms as her children. Her attorney, Tommy Stawley, was asked whether Elizabeth considered herself a victim. He said no, but he was still looking into that possibility. The prosecutor was asked the same question. His answer was careful. According to her attorney, she's not a victim. That is not a denial, it is a placeholder. And now the memorandum reveals why the prosecutor is not ready to treat her as one.
For manufacturing, their apps can sync inventory with real-time production and purchase updates, so you never run out of stock. And when it comes time for accounting, that's also fully automated. Odoo can create invoices, track expenses, and even summarize data with AI to save you hundreds of hours. The best part? You can choose your apps and even build custom workflows, so it's all fully tailored to your business's needs. Take your business to the next level by consulting with an Odoo expert today for free at odoo.com/crimefix. And there's also news about Christina Ciders and her request for a bail modification. We'll get to that in just a moment. But first, I want to bring in Ron O'Brien. He is the former prosecutor of Franklin County, Ohio. That's in Columbus, Ohio, to the north of Vinton County. Ron, thanks so much for coming back on.
Oh, very glad to see you again.
Yeah, good to see you. I'm really interested in your thoughts on this prosecutor, William Archer, coming out after all of these weeks and weeks after these requests for bail modifications were filed, and saying, we oppose any bail modification for these three reasons. And the first reason being, one of the three reasons he gave for Elizabeth Ciders, at least, was the fact that the issue of her competency has been raised. What do you make of that?
Well, I think first, in order to do a competency exam, the psychologists like to control the location and have it in a controlled setting. And if she was released on bond, too, there's no assurance that she would meet the examiner at the time and place identified. So examiners like to interview the suspect and give them any tests, psychological or otherwise.
The memorandum gives 3 reasons to keep Elizabeth Ciders in jail. First, the charges are serious. Second, she has filed a competency motion, and until that evaluation is complete, she is at personal risk. Third, and this is the sentence that matters, the defendant has new serious felony charges that will be considered by the grand jury. Those are not the 16 child endangering charges already filed. Those are additional charges. The prosecutor did not name them, he did not have to. The phrase itself is a warning shot. It tells the judge that the case is still expanding. It tells the defense that the worst is not yet public. And it tells the rest of us that the hidden children of OMR Street may have been hidden from more than just school and sunlight.
Psychological or otherwise, while they're in the county jail, if they're going to be released on bond later, that's up to the court. But I think they prefer that controlled atmosphere.
As things stand right now, we know what we know. We know that the 16 children were taken from the house on June 30th. We know that that three of the adults remain in jail. The children are in therapeutic foster care. This prosecutor knows a whole heck of a lot more than we do. He knows the inner workings of the investigation, what brought them there in the first place. He is calling Elizabeth a flight risk. Her attorney, on the other hand, has said that she doesn't have any money. She can't post bail, so you should just let her out and put a GPS bracelet on her. So is there maybe something this prosecutor is hearing on jail calls that she's might be saying to family members that's really raising his concern that she could potentially flee?
Well, I'm quite sure he's listening to any jail calls by her as well as the others. They're permitted to do that and have a big sign next to the jail telephone that the calls are monitored. Typically, they don't listen to phone calls between the defendant and their own lawyer, but if
Sure.
he's on there talking to family or friends, they are picking that up. Interesting that he also identified her as a flight risk, and uh, I don't know what they would know that we don't know. They obviously are aware of some investigative information, but she doesn't have any money. She doesn't have, I don't think, a bunch of outside support. I'm not sure where she would go either. The
Here is where the thriller element enters. Vinton County is poor, so poor that when the grandfather, Gary Ciders Sr, was released on a signature bond, the prosecutor noted his medical bills alone could have bankrupted the county. One inmate, one set of medical bills. That is the financial reality of the jurisdiction now responsible for this case. So the question is not just whether Elizabeth Ciders should be free. The question is what happens to the next house on the next quiet street if the county runs out of money to answer the call. Because the system is not watching every door, it only shows up after the door has been forced open. And once it does, the clock starts. The grand jury has a limited window to hear the evidence. The prosecutor knows it, the defense knows it, and the children are already in therapeutic foster
the
care.
crime scene itself, there's a whole lot of reasons where she doesn't have stability should she be released. But on top of that, she's looking at multiple, up to 16 second degree felonies that have maximum penalties of 8 years. So she's looking at decades in prison, and that's enough motive to flee, or at least for the state to argue that she has a reason to flee.
William Archer also said that Elizabeth is a potential risk to the victims in this case. Now, these potential victims, the 16 children ranging in age from age 18 to 1.5, they're all in therapeutic foster care. So you would hope that, she's not going to be able to learn their location since she is accused of endangering the children. But this is interesting to me that the a prosecutor thinks she's a potential risk to their safety after her lawyer, Tommy Stolle, has said publicly, like, she wants to be reunited with her children. She loves her children. She's getting care packages at the jail and she's asking, can I give this stuff to my kids? So it sounds to me like there's a lot here under the surface that we don't know about. When you read between the lines of this, what does it say to you?
Well, I think just by virtue of the fact that she is suggesting she wants reunited with.
The state has also opposed bail for Christina Ciders, the grandmother, but with only 2 reasons, not 3. The missing reason is the new charges. That silence is loud. It suggests the prosecutor sees Elizabeth, and possibly Gary Jr., as the primary actors. Grandmother may have failed to intervene, but the new serious felony charges are not pointed at her. At least not yet. Meanwhile, Vinton County has moved for permanent custody of all 16 children. Not temporary custody, permanent. In Ohio, that means the state believes reunification is not in the best interest of the child. The hidden children of OMR Street may never go home.
United with the children, that should she be released, that she might make a effort to have contact with them. Obviously, the placements for the children would not be known, but given the whole very bizarre circumstances surrounding this case, they probably have a concern that she might try and find out where the children are. Obviously, a proposed ankle monitor. We all know ankle monitors fairly regularly get, at least I have had defendants cut them off their ankle, and
Mm.
no longer subject to monitoring, which would fit into their argument regarding flight as well as attempt to contact the children.
There's also another little tidbit of information here, very interesting and very important bit of information regarding Elizabeth Ciders. The prosecutor says that she's already facing these 16 charges of child endangering, and these are F2s. And that includes causing, basically serious harm to a child. It's neglect, not providing a safe environment, causing serious physical harm, things of that nature. But he's saying, when this goes to grand jury, he's going to ask the grand jurors to indict her on new charges. So that makes me think this is in addition to those six.
Elizabeth's attorney says she wants out so she can be reunited with her children. She loves them, he says. She asks at the jail whether she can send care packages. That is the official narrative. The state's response is a different story. It calls her a potential risk to the victims. Why? Because she might try to find the children. Because an ankle monitor is not real-time surveillance. It can be cut off, and alerts are often reviewed after the fact. Because a woman facing decades in prison has almost no reason to stay in a county that cannot even afford her medical care. Love and risk are not mutually exclusive. The memorandum does not accuse her of not loving her children. It accuses her of being dangerous enough that love is not
In
enough.
addition to those 16 child endangering charges. What does that say to you? Because I don't know what other charges. My mind is spinning. What other charges could Elizabeth Ciders face aside from child endangering?
Well, that was the most striking thing in the memo that the state filed opposing reduction in bond. And I think it's showing some cards to the public as well as to defense counsel that, look, you're looking at child endangering cases, but there's more coming and it's more serious. And that is also why she might try and flee. And that's also why she might try and reach her children to talk to them, to influence them one way or another in what their statements may be in relating to the endangering children, but any other offenses that may have occurred while they're locked in this small room for many years. The key to this, I think, is, among other things, is it's long going. It wasn't just one discrete child endangering where a mother burned a child on the arm, and that's the basis for the single child endangering. This went on for years where they weren't sent to school, where they were locked up, that they weren't allowed out, that their life was
Then
very.
there is the competency evaluation. Elizabeth's lawyer raised it, Judge Rogers ordered it. The evaluation will also look at whether she had a mental illness that would make her not guilty by reason of insanity. That is not a delay tactic, it is a signal that the defense is preparing for a different kind of case. The prosecutor used that motion as a reason to keep her in jail. Think about the irony. Raising a mental health question made her less likely to get out, not more. The system protects itself first. The children are already protected. The hidden children of OMR Street are now in therapeutic foster care. But the legal machinery around them is just getting started. Here is what you can do. Pull the state of Ohio's memorandum in opposition to defendant's request for bond modification in Vinton County Common Pleas Court. It is a public document. Read the last paragraph again. Then ask yourself one question: what could those new serious felony charges actually be? Put your answer in the comments. Because the prosecutor has not said, the grand jury has not spoken. And until they do, we are all reading the same silence. If this breakdown helped you see the legal strategy behind the headline, hit like, share it, and subscribe to Law and Crime Insiders. Turn on notifications, because the next filing in this case could change the entire picture.